my name is Justin, and I am going to update on the roguelike game that I showed off my testing before my first video for roguelike moving character. I wanted to experiment with it because there's a lot you can do with a roguelike, and there's a lot of aspects to a roguelike that you need to cover other than just moving a character and interacting with an object. So the first problem that I tackled was, if you go back to my first video, you'll notice that the program would control a character, and it reached to an X, like an exit. I marked it as an X. It would reach it, and when it got there, it would respawn the player, and then it'll respawn a random location for the X. That did demonstrate what I wanted to do, but it wasn't very practical. I can't really do much with it. So I changed it a little bit. Now I made it so the player doesn't respawn, and instead of just nothing happens, I collect a coin. So the player no longer respawns, the player just collects the coin, goes onto the space, collects it, and then it goes into a counter. And the coin will always spawn inside the boundaries. It's going to be 100% random. 10x and 10y, that's the grid, and it just keeps respawning. That's basically it right now. Just to show you just how it works. That's really it. I control it with WASD, and it updates the game every time I press it, but there's no motion in the game, so the coin just sits there and only my player moves. There's no limit on the coin. I can keep playing until I'm ready to stop. So that was my first testing with the moving character, so I could get a hang of it, because I didn't want the player to keep respawning. Now that I figured out how to make the player not respawn, I wanted a player to interact with an object on the screen without actually collecting it. So I wanted to move the object. So now I made it so that the player can go to the object that spawned and push it. So here I am, I'm able to push it, and I can keep pushing it all over the place. Whichever direction I go to, I can push it the opposite way, and I can slide it all over the map. The only problem is, if I push it off the map, it disappears because I pushed it off the boundary. So right now it's off the map, so I can't get it back. The only way for me to get it back is to press R again, and it will reset the screen. The two numbers you see at the top of the screen are the two locations of the two things on the screen, one of which is the player. The first number, which is 4 now, or I'll change it, which is 1, is the Y value, so the up and down. So the lower you go, the higher the value. It goes all the way up to 10. Now the second number, which is 4 right now, is my X value. Going right increases all the way up, it has 10. So the highest possible value is 1010, which is 10y, 10x. And I made sure to keep an eye on those coordinates so I could program the entity that I'm pushing around a lot easier. So I put them at the top of my screen to basically troubleshoot. I wanted to make sure that the variables that I was making was actually moving with the character and actually making sense. And everything was making sense. So I'm going to show you my last project, which is the closest thing to a roguelike I've ever made, which is actually which is a game in artificial intelligence where there's an enemy on the screen that will walk towards the player. He will find the closest route to the player and go to it. And right now, that's how this works. It finds the player, it says, okay, this player is this many spaces away, I gotta move this direction for this many times to get to this location. So that's how this monster works, and I didn't just stop there. This monster also can go into combat. If I stand here, he's not going to fight. What I mean is, if I walk into the monster, I can go into combat with him. I don't know if you noticed, but the two numbers at the top of the screen are 20 and 2 and 15 and 1. 20 and 2 and 15 and 1 are no longer the coordinates. These are the stats for the monsters and the player. 20 and 2 is the player, 15 and 1 is the goblin, 20 being the health, and 2 being the damage, 15 being the monster health, and 1 being the monster damage. So what I do is when I walk into the monster, I don't move anymore, instead I go into combat. So when I walk into the goblin, I do 2 damage. As you can see, I subtracted 2 from his health, and the goblin did 1 damage to me, since I went into combat with him. So I can keep doing it until he dies, and when he dies, he disappears off the map, because I change his location to XX, which doesn't match variables anymore, because I use numbers to mark the location of the entity. Once you change it to letters, it no longer exists on the map, and I can no longer alter the location of the enemy. And now I can walk freely without being interrupted by any entity. I still hit the boundaries of the map, but I just don't, touch the enemy. And you'll also know, there's also another value on the screen, a new variable. And that variable is AIY and AIX. These are the amount of location away the goblin is from the player. So AIY meaning he's 4 points away from me. Now he's going to 3. He's 3 points away. Now he's going to be 2 points away. And then he's going to be 1 point away. Right now he's 1 point away. So basically it looks at this number and it counts. Is the player this many places away? Yes, we gotta go this direction. And that works for X as well. He will go right. And he stops as soon as he touches me. That's it. As soon as he enters the sphere of influence, he stops because he's in my range. And I made it also so that he can't block my path, so that I can maneuver around him. Of course, I can't actually escape from him, but I can still move around freely without getting trapped. So I don't have to fight him if I don't want to. So that's the simple artificial intelligence that I made for my roguelike game. I don't know if I'm going to do much more for this, but I just wanted to test more. So that's what I got so far. So if you have any opinions or suggestions or ideas, let me know, and I'd be happy to consider it. Thank you for watching.